Good afternoon, folks. And the tech specs for Cyberpunk 2077 just came out, and this is on their Twitter feed. Let's just take a zoom in here. And they were a lot smaller than we thought. We thought everyone needed to buy these RTX Titan GPUs, but apparently not. So let's see what we got here. The minimum requirements are Intel i5s or AMD FXs. That's pretty darn good. 8 gigs of RAM, which is surprising if you're running on Windows. Windows usually sucks up, or at least 8 gigs to run. So I'm not sure how that's going to work. Maybe you need 16 gigs of RAM on your motherboard. I don't know. The NVIDIA GTX 780 or the AMD Radeon FX 470. That's surprising. And of course, you need 70 gigs of ROM just to install the thing. So imagine having a computer 4 years old, roughly 4 to 5 years old, and you'll be fine. You'll be good. That's a good thing. Now the recommended specs are a bit better, but not by much. So here's the Intel Core i7 or the AMD Ryzen 3. That's fairly old architecture. It's not. I mean, I have an i7 on this computer right here. 12 gigs of RAM. Again, you're going to have 16 regardless. I think that's a safe bet if you're going to run Windows. And an NVIDIA GTX 1060. And that's the surprising thing. The 1060 graphics card. That's what this is all about, really. What graphics card did you need to run this game? And back in the day, a few months back, they were having these RTX 2080 Ti cards, which are comparable to the Titan, but selling them for $4,000, which is kind of crazy. And there was collector's editions, so they were big fancy. You got the yellow paint job, and they stick out like that. It's like, ooh, very, very pricey. So that was back in April of this year, $4,000. Now, if we actually compare the Titan that they were using last year, which came out in the end of 2019, I believe. Release date, end of 2018. And here's the 2080 Ti. The Titan is actually better, but you're spending crazy amount of money just to own the top of the line. And you're getting 11% performance. It's really not worth the dollar value. And this is what out of all these benchmarks, probably the most important is, which is happening at the end of this year. It's already happened in September with NVIDIA, but we're going to see next month with AMD, if they can compete. I don't know if they can. Is this value right here? Where is it? I'm trying to find it. The value. It's literally the value stat. Value. There we go. So obviously, spending $3,500 does not really make a lot of sense. And even spending the $1,715. That's American dollars. Sorry, that's Canadian dollars. My mistake. Is not still not much value. But you were set to, if you own any of these cards, you would have been set, and that would have been the big benchmark really to compare to play Cyberpunk. Now let's compare it to another card, which has just come out called the 3080. We know there's the 3090. We haven't seen specs too much for the 3070. At least I can't find them on this website. So we have a 3080 RTX versus the RTX 2080 Ti. Still very good cards. Look at the price difference, though. Almost less than half. That's amazing. This is what we're talking about this month, and the next months, and the next 2 months to come. Is what are you going to get out of your card based on the money you spend? What kind of games are going to take advantage of this technology? And why is NVIDIA doing it now? So again, not much jump from the Titan, which is again top of the line. And this is the middle of the road card, or rather the thing they're betting all their cash on, the 3080 card compared to the 30. Not too many people are going to buy the 3090. I can see the 3070 when it comes out, and perhaps if they do a 3060 model, that might be for the mainstream. Everyone will be buying a standard 3060 model, whether it's on a laptop or otherwise. So you're getting roughly the same performance, roughly the same rendering and lighting performance. I'm not too concerned with overclocking. I can't see too many people doing that. But again, value. Look how much value. 64.2%, comparatively speaking. So it's a cheaper card. It's performing better. It's just came out. I mean, this is great. Everyone's looking for this card. And this is the second highest they got for performance. Here's the two models of 3080 and 3070. That was the 3080. The 3090, on this chart, it would be somewhere over here, I guess, up in the top corner. It would definitely be more expensive. Yeah, around $1,500 American, and somewhere sitting right above the 3080 somewhere over here. And here's the Ti, what we just looked at. And yeah, so I don't know what's going to happen to price wars these cards, but it's just going to cause everyone to just hold their breath. Like, what am I going to do? What am I going to buy this year? Because I'm looking to buy a computer. So I'm like, okay, should I buy one right now or should I wait 2 months for prices to drop? And we compare the 3090 specs, and we're talking about 24 gigabytes of RAM there, of GPU RAM, which is the same amount of RAM for the Titan. Only we're talking about 10,496 CUDA cores. Even though the CUDA core is essentially, it is the cores of a GPU, the same way the CPU has cores. It's the same concept. So the other thing that's really great about the RTX series, aside from the ray tracing, which is the RTX in the name, is it is supposedly using a technique called RTX IO. And it's 100 times faster communication between the GPU and the CPU. And why is that? Well, traditionally, what happens is the communication between the GPU has to go and store its results on the storage device and then go back to the CPU, and then get loaded to system memory. And apparently, and I could be getting this wrong, so I apologize if I'm not technically minded enough, it just bypasses all that and goes straight in the GPU and renders on the screen. I could be wrong. I probably have to read this over one more time, but other performance tests I like the 2070S or the 2070. The S is just the Super Edition. You're talking about a 10% increase perhaps in performance compared to the 3070. So the 3070 really is this nice little jump in performance, lower cost, and it's very attractive to the rest of pretty much every gamer on a PC. And with the release of the PlayStation 5 and the next Xbox coming out rather soon, this is going to be this crazy year for Christmas, and who knows what's going to happen in January. We could talk about frame rates based off the resolution. Obviously, the more resolution, the more computations the card has to do, therefore you get lower frame rates. But again, regardless, the 3070 and 3080 are still outperforming the 2080 Ti. It's just a fantastic thing to see. Here's the comparison of the 2070, which is this generation's card, and the 3080. And you're getting, again, this massive jump, 80% boost in performance. And it's just a fantastic looking card. The value is even higher. It's just great. And even with the Super Edition, let's just see that. It's a 70% boost. It's just fantastic stuff. Still great value for your money. And this is what it's all about. If everyone can afford this jump in technology, everyone's going to be adopting it. That doesn't mean ray tracing is going to be this thing that's going to be happening in every game from now on. Ray tracing has been out for at least 2 years now. Only a few games have taken advantage of it. So it's not the issue. The issue is that you're going to get an amazing piece of hardware. It's going to last you at least 5 years or more. So in my case, I have what is it? I'm trying to remember. All right, a GTX 765M. And it's kind of hard to explain why I'm not buying a computer just yet, because when you're talking about going from desktop to laptop, the same model, so a 2070 on a desktop outperforms a 2070 on laptop, even though it's using the same hardware. And it's something called MaxQ. And there's actually editions of MaxQ. And you can check out on, for example, here's a MaxQ card on a laptop, 2070. And how do I explain MaxQ to you? It's an aeronautical term, but it's pretty much based for laptops on how you want graphics to be performed the same way they would perform on a desktop with a low amount of heat production, because you're talking about making these things really small. So you have to fit into a laptop by using the same performance. So they can't do that technically. Yes, they can. They could spend a lot more money and get the same performance, but then it would be a different architecture. So what they do is they cap the performance. They cap the amps that can be fed into the machine, and thus the level of heat that is generated from the GPU. So that's what MaxQ variance generally is referring to, that you're trying to get this device to perform better. And it's always going to perform better, even if it's the same make and model on a desktop. So we can even compare that to itself. Let's do RTX 2070. There it is. So boom, it's already 25% more efficient or more performance. And it's kind of hard to compare apples and oranges, but if you're a laptop guy like myself, this is what you're concerned with. You're concerned with power usage, heat, and thus noise, because there's not too many cooling options on a laptop than there are for a desktop. Another thing is really cool about the architecture of the old Turing GPUs from NVIDIA and the Ampere architecture. And what that means is the amount of nanometers, I think, dropped significantly from 12 to 8. So they're doing a lot more in a lot less space. And you can see that by how much juice you could pump into it. And it's almost a doubling in power, which is cool. And other things, they bench test all kinds of games. And it's almost a doubling of frame rates, which is awesome. This is interesting. Is this a benchmarking for recommended hardware with Tom's Hardware? This was back in July, so this wasn't too far away. And I just tried to look at a few. This is CyberPower PC, by the way. This is from lowest to highest using GeForce Series 2070s as well as the 3080. It just came out, so there's probably not too many hardware they've got available to buy, as well as the laptop versions. That's only the 2070 and 2080 series, of course, because hasn't been made yet. So you're roughly looking at the same prices, and these are American prices, of course. So it's kind of funny. Like, he recommended at the time an i7, which is true. The Kraken cooling, the Tough Gaming motherboard, 2x 16 gigabytes, so 32 gigs of RAM. There's a 1 terabyte ADATA SSD. You have an RTX 2080 Super. Okay, that's fine. You could run that. So that's comparable. So obviously prices are a little different, but they're probably going to go down even further in the next 2 months. And the other question is, what kind of GPU you should be using? Because right now, a lot of people are, if you're going to be buying a computer for just to play Cyberpunk, unless you're happy with what you got, what kind of CPU do you buy? And here's another Tom's Hardware look at these two. And I like this chart because it tells you what's going on here. Now, in terms of raw power, Intel is still better, but it's also more expensive. So if you want to get the best performance, you go with Intel. If you want to get the best bang for your buck, AMD. And the performance is not that big a jump. So the architecture is better. The power consumption is better. It's going to be generating less heat, therefore. And it's just a more tight, a cheaper chipset. But we don't know what AMD is going to be doing with their was it Big Navi coming out in October. We don't know if that's going to be comparable. I don't think it's going to beat NVIDIA. And I don't think, unless they have extremely low prices, I don't think it's going to be worth it. But come November, that's like my final date to buy a new box. And hopefully I'll be back in the game of making videos again. But I thought that was a cool little explanation or understanding of some of these benchmarks of what it means to get an RTX 30 series this year. Or maybe you should wait till November. Maybe you should wait till January. See what happens to prices then. What is NVIDIA going to do when all these unsold 2070s or 2080s are lying around because they want to buy the 3080 or, God forbid, the 3090 series. Anyway, what kind of configuration are you guys doing? Are you even going to buy a new computer? Are you already set to play some Cyberpunk? I don't know, guys. It's up to you, but it's a hefty investment, but it's not as expensive as you think. Thanks for listening. Have yourself a great day.